Sounds good. Just cross the board.
Yeah, we're just doing an introduction.
They can hold back them to come.
Yeah.
Do we have a quorum? It's a little after 11, we'll call the meeting to order. Why don't we, are there any adjustments to the agenda? And if there are none, I'd like to make one just very quickly, kind of run around the room to make sure everybody knows who everybody is again. It's been a while since we've all been together. I'm Brian Shoup. I'm with the Waitsfield Select Board and the chair of the steering committee.
I'm Jim Westell, Sugar Bush Resort.
Jonathan Ersprung, I'm the Waitsfield Planning Commission Chair.
Chuck Martell, Facein Select Board.
Paul Quinlan, faced in Planning Commission Chair.
Are you sure?
Eric Friedman, River Valley Chamber.
Dan Raddock, Warren, Planning Commission Chair.
Sam Robinson, I work at the Mad River Valley Planning District.
And Joshua Schwartz, staff at the Planning District.
And Christian?
Hi, Christian Meyer, Director at the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission.
We do have I guess an alternate from Warren was appointed, and we're not sure if she's gonna make it here tonight.
Yeah.
They're shorthanded on their select board these days. And
Oh, I'm just very big along with, I'm in Warren, I'm just coming for this.
great, well, there's anybody here for public comment?
Question, I guess. I was chatting with Josh yesterday at the meeting.
The Dyersville Village Master Plan.
Yeah, so and then I was thinking about it, because you said that the whole, and it's coming up later in the agenda, I know. So if you'd rather answer it there, that's fine. The whole, where all the housing was going and on the maps and the charts and what have you, is all mostly private land, I guess. So the question I was thinking about was, did people ask those folks like ahead of time if they were interested in the plan? You know, or is it if we build like this, the sewer system, you know, then they will come, kind of approach. So I don't know how that.
Maybe John.
The field
Yeah.
of dreams, the sewer
Happy-
system of dreams.
Right.
So I guess it's sort of twofold answer. One is yes, those conversations are ongoing. We have reached out to a number of property owners in Irisville. And we are hoping for some more engagement from the folks along Slow Road that we've been trying to reach out to. So that's one side of it. The other side is sort of, as you said, setting the conditions such that it's attractive to the owners to redevelop and, you know, actually take advantage of the opportunity. So Irisville will, you know, depending on how the plan pans out, which is not finalized yet, there's a reasonable chance that we will be readdressing some of the bylaws for zoning in Irisville to make it more feasible to get that the work done to build there. So it's sort of a combination of the two. Yeah. And the sort of idea behind that is that we want a product coming out of this that in sort of gives us the vision of what the community really wants, what people in the valley are hoping for. And to do that, we really need like a concrete picture of, you know, this is what we think it could look like if it were developed in a certain direction. But understanding that we don't own that land, you know, we're gonna have to engage with landowners to figure out what can actually be done. So having sort of I don't know if I want to call it the gold standard, but sort of like the sort of idealized version of what this could look like, as something to work towards, gives us something concrete to point towards. And then, you know, we use that to help push the sort of regulatory side of things, to get the zoning set up properly, to get, you know, the sort of groundwork laid so that someone can come in and start to build on that plan. So there's an anticipation that the reality will not completely align with the plan itself. But the real goal is to get people excited about the idea that it could look something like that. And then hopefully that helps to drive interest in achieving something similar, even if it's not 100% identical.
Thank you.
I hope that helps.
Yeah.
And I would say that it is a mixture between private development and public infrastructure development. So yes, there are buildings on blocks on parcels, but those front on a street that is owned by the municipality or usually, and all of the infrastructure that it takes to make that a reality. So it's really both. But this sets the direction.
Yeah, and just, I guess, one last piece on that is that, so you may have noticed in some of the plans, there are sort of the more extensive build outs do envision extending Slow Road and potentially building some parking on the other side of sort of next to the existing Shaw's parking. And there's some thought to whether that could be done municipally to help incentivize the type of construction we're looking for. So there is, yeah, potentially a more active role for the municipalities to play, but it's all contingent on ensuring that there's support, ensuring that the wastewater project goes through, and then, you know, creating the groundwork to allow that to happen.
Any other?
No other. public-
None, no. So do we have a motion on the January 16th minutes?
I'll move.
We accept. Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion, any corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Turn it over to Josh and Sam for the staff report.
Great, thank you. And I am gonna chat about a couple things and then Sam's gonna chat about a couple things and we'll go from there. Just need to. There we go. Right document in front of me. Yeah, this is the first meeting we've had in a long time where we start when it's daylight out. So milestone, happy March 20th.
Which is the first day of spring.
It's the first day of spring. Yeah, we're right in the middle of the where the sun is. So I want to start by just mentioning a couple quick things on the Waitsfield Community Wastewater Project, where I'm still putting most of my attention and time from staff time. The project itself is at the 60% design stage. So 60% of the design is complete. The engineer is working on finalizing pump station designs, pre-bidding for the treatment technology. Clock started yesterday, so that's the process of identifying identifying an outfit that will in the future develop the treatment technology. And size it for this particular project, collaborating with the Vermont 100 Active Transportation Corridor Scoping Study Project to identify opportunities for co-location, and a lot working with state permitting, VTrans on right-of-way, historic preservation and archaeology, the Department of Environmental Conservation on indirect discharge. So a lot of those pieces are very much moving. Funding, so this is grant application season. We in since we last met, I want to say I've put 3 or 4 applications or pre-applications in for funding. These are all funding pieces of the funding stack that we had identified previously. And those pre-applications have been, at least one of the 2 we've heard has been accepted. And then we'll move forward to the full applications and they're all due in early April. So this is the sprint. And you'd think that if you apply for one federal funder and a different federal funder, you can just grab the same stuff and put it in the other one, but it's not that simple. But we're moving forward, and those pre-applications are approximately $1 million each, so that's $2 million towards the total cost of the project. But things are moving forward. Like I said, we've moved through pre-application stage to full application in at least one of those so far. And these are federal funding sources, the pre-application projects that are still moving forward. A different topic area that I wanted to highlight. On the municipal side, so we talked about it at a previous meeting. Sam and I were invited to a meeting of the Warren Planning Commission to discuss their interests in exploring housing development options at Warren's existing town garage location. And it was a great discussion. And it was sort of like a pre-discussion of what are the opportunities and the different pathways and the considerations for a project. The Warren's Town Garage is still at the Warren Town Garage, but the town's in the process of looking at relocating that. So we started that discussion, and yeah, and it was really great. I wanted to highlight St. Albans financing discussion is another item on here, based on a conference that I went to in middle January in the city of St. Albans that was about funding and federal funding and funding for community projects. York Haverkamp, who is the Waitsfield's new town administrator, and JB Weir, the Waitsfield's planning and zoning director, and I went up to the city of St. Albans and essentially followed up on this conference that I went to, which explored what I would call the transformation of the city of St. Albans and the approach that municipality has taken in investing in its downtown. They've utilized a variety of different structures like tax increment financing, local option taxes, and public-private partnerships to make visions a reality. City of St. Albans is a 2 square mile area. They don't have a lot of room to grow. They really can't grow out. They can only grow in and up. And the city has taken a very, I would say, aggressive view on the role that a municipality can play in making projects happen. And so I thought it was great it was a good opportunity for sort of the Waitsfield staff team and I to sort of see how a community is making things like the Irisville Village Master Planning, for instance, these goals a reality in the context of the city of St. Albans. Obviously a different municipality with different circumstances, but I think there's some things that are transferable there. I want to provide an update on one thing, Sugarbush, the Mount Ellen surface lift replacement project. Upgrading the Tommy's Toy surface tow lift. I wrote in here that it received most of its permits and was remaining. The remaining permit was the land use permit amendment for Act 250, and that came through today. And it's a proposed permit via the minor application procedure. So essentially, no public hearing, and it'll be issued in early April, assuming there's no issues identified for the public. So kudos, Sugarbush.
Hope not, it's delivered and unpacked.
Usually it works this way, so should be good. So those are the things that I wanted to highlight, and I want to kick it over to Sam, who is going to share about a couple things.
Yep. So the first thing I wanted to touch on is just some updates regarding the conservation recreation visioning project that we recently have joined up with. So that whole project was funded through the Vermont Outdoor Recreation Economic Collaborative. I think that's the full name. So it's funded through the VOREC grant. And what the stage they're at now is they're kind of they're closing out that grant. It'll end at the end of March. And now they're at a point where they're deciding what will this project look like on an ongoing basis. So I began joining their meetings about a month ago. And they have this document that they created as one of the deliverables of the grant, which is called the Shared Vision and Guiding Principles, kind of understanding what is our vision for balancing our environment and our recreation, and kind of a set of principles that all 15 member organizations agree to and have committed to carry forward as we continue moving forward in both directions as a community. So those first couple meetings we went to, really, we had 20 different goals and objectives that stemmed from that shared vision and guiding principles document. And we went through and kind of prioritized and identified areas that each group and each member or representing member could carry forward, moving on into the next stage of the project. There was also kind of a discussion regarding the structure that it would take moving forward. Some folks thought there needed to be a bit more of a rigid structure in order to have everything that needs to get done. And others thought that there are certain organizations that it makes sense for certain tasks to be handled. For instance, continuing education for property owners. There's certain trail organizations that task just kind of makes sense as part of their work for them to take on. So where it stands now is the structure moving forward that's being proposed. Nothing's been finalized at this point, but it's looking like it will be more or less quarterly meetings. Each organization will focus on their area of expertise between these meetings. If a trail organization has a project that they're working on, between meetings, they'll correspond with parties that they think might be interested. If there's an opportunity for, you know, if VAST is doing a trail and there could be an opportunity for some co-location, maybe mountain bikers could use it as well. There'll be those discussions. And then at these quarterly meetings, there'll be a broader presentation of what they're proposing to work on. And it'll be an opportunity for both the environmental integrity folks and all of the trail groups to get together and have a discussion. The Mad River Valley Planning District's role in all of this is we've been requested to serve as kind of like a meeting facilitator. So the meeting structure will be what's been proposed so far is it's a long meeting. So we're looking at like a 3-hour meeting. It'll include just kind of like some introductions because they're looking to invite groups that weren't initially part of that 15 member organization structure. So there'll be outside groups that are invited. They'll also have guest speakers, project updates from trail groups, and the Mad River Valley Planning District's role in all that is to kind of coordinate all of that with the groups that have an update, coordinate with guest speakers and make sure that everything fits and goes according to plan. We'll also be doing things like taking minutes and then providing action items after the meeting. So anything that needs to be followed up on can get followed up on. There'll also be some other deliverables, like similar to what we do with our annual data report. There's going to be kind of a road show that the CRV does after the closeout of this grant. Laura and Ira are actually going to be doing the presentations, but they've asked for some assistance with just coming up with the presentation and getting it into a format that is shareable. So I'll be helping out with that as well. And then one last update about that project is they're going to have another community forum. And you probably have seen some of the other ones that they've done at LaRue over the past 2 years. That is slated to happen on May 21st. So keep an eye out for that. That'll be like the last kind of wrap up community forum where they'll talk a little bit about how the project went and kind of provide a conclusion to the official kind of 1.0 version of this project. Moving on, I wanted to give a bit of an update on the Vermont 100 Active Transportation Corridor project, or I guess now we're calling it the Mad River Valley Active Transportation Corridor project. So I didn't update that. It's been going pretty smoothly. Misha and I have been conducting a variety of field days over like the last couple months, trying to provide VHB with the necessary data that they needed in order to build out the 3 different alternatives that are going to be proposed at next week's meeting. So essentially, we've helped them identify environmental constraints. We've also been engaging in conversations with individual property owners at particularly difficult sections to see if there's an interest in allowing the path to cross over a portion of their property, and pretty much doing all of the field work to get those alternatives developed. Next week's meeting will have a presentation of 3 different alternatives. One is kind of like a minimum build scenario where you wouldn't change much. It wouldn't be all that different than the current state. The middle of the road is kind of an expansion scenario where there'd be an expanded shoulder, but it wouldn't be a fully separate shared use path. And then the third scenario would be a fully separate shared use path along the Route 100 right of way. So we'll be providing an overview of all of those different options, and then folks will have an opportunity to essentially vote on which option they think should be recommended as the preferred alternative in the official scoping study. So definitely recommend coming to that next week, 6 to 7:30 p.m. in the Waitsfield Elementary School gym. Should be a fun event. We had great turnout at the first one and hoping for it this next one as well.
A larger room this time.
Larger room, yeah. And then the last thing that I wanted to touch on is it's in the transportation section as well. It's the Mad Bus Performance Report. So we received an email about a month ago from Green Mountain Transit. VTrans published their transit performance report. And they identified that the Valley Floor Mad Bus route has been underperforming for a couple years now, and they've been told that V-Trans is gonna expect them to address that issue in the next season. The cost per rider is kind of the efficiency metric that they use to judge whether or not a route is performing or underperforming. And the kind of acceptable range is $11 per rider. And I think a successful range was $8 per rider. And right now the Valley Floor costs around like 21 or $22 per passenger to run. So it's well above the $11 acceptable range. Josh joined for a meeting last week to kind of talk about what the options are to address this. And initially the conversation was kind of stemming around reducing the service, but then the conversation shifted into, is there another way that we could lower the cost of ridership without minimizing the service, which would be getting more riders? So now we're doing an analysis of potentially changing the route to include some additional stops, places like the rec hub, some of the lodging facilities along Route 17 and German Flats Road. And so far we've created a GIS map and attribute table. We're doing our best to kind of estimate the occupancy of each facility that would be added, and then building out like a kind of like modest scenario, an optimistic scenario, and a scenario that maybe like only a small amount of the people in those facilities actually took us up on the option. What would that look like as far as increased ridership? So hopefully we'll come up with a compelling case to not reduce the level of service and instead try and make an argument that maybe we could increase the level of ridership. Hopefully gonna depend on Eric a little bit to help steer us in the right direction there, but that's the update there that I have.
Great,
Mhm.
awesome. And then the last two things I wanted to share, or we wanted to share, were.
Hey, Joshua,
Yes.
guys,
Christian.
jump in on that last item that Sam covered. In addition, as part of my role as CVRPC, I'm also the Washington County board rep on the Green Mountain Transit board, and I think explain the situation well. VTrans is definitely putting a lot of pressure to tighten up the performance for Green Mountain Transit, and obviously in Chittenden County, they've suffered a lot of cuts, and it looks like Montpelier will see some reductions to their on-demand service. But as I just wanted to offer, assistance, Sam, if you guys want to collaborate on that at all, Ruben, our transportation planner, I'm sure could help with some of that propensity analysis work. And
That'd be great.
do some research, and if as is helpful, right?
That'd be awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
And also happy to advocate for Mad River Valley in my role on the board.
Awesome. Thanks, Christian.
Yeah, we have a meeting set for next Thursday, Christian, as a follow-up to the meeting we had last week, so 2 weeks in between, which is where we're planning on sort of sharing this information and having that next part of the discussions. But yeah, maybe Sam or I can reach out to Ruben directly and find a way that we can collaborate, and we'll keep you in the loop. So the last thing is we have printed versions. They're available on the website of two things. One, the 2024 annual data report, as well as the 2024 year in review document. So both of these are on the website. There's a newsletter went out at the beginning of the month that provided direct links to these things. The year in reviews were printed versions were in the back of the three towns town meetings. So we pass these around, but there's one for each member of the steering committee. Yep. Pass these around this way too.
And Sam, you've been making the rounds with this stuff, right?
Yep. Yeah. I still got to come to Waitsfield. I've wrapped up Warren, Basin, and then you guys.
Select board and planning.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Is there anything else? Any questions? Anybody?
Yeah, that's it for us.
Fair battery.
They haven't answered any questions.
Anything? We're moving right along. I think the next item will likely be fairly quick too.
I think so.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
ask one question?
Go ahead, Dan, yeah.
On the neighborhood designation, Joshua?
Yeah.
Has Ruth been in touch with you, or is she, I know she's probably waiting for me to, do something, but have you heard from her recently?
Yeah, so just to provide context, to everyone here, at the discussion that we had in Warren about housing, one of the action items was to seek a neighborhood development area application. Slip and finish. Just, I know it can be hard to report. The neighborhood development area designation for Warren, which could be a benefit, for housing projects in Warren Village. Waitsfield, I think it was May, it now has an NDA, a neighborhood development area designation. And with support of the planning district. And so I have spoken with Ruth. She mentioned that she was working with you on a municipal planning grant, and essentially she'll have more time after that. That was step one. The second is I contacted the representative from Department of Housing Community Development and shared the interests of Warren to apply. It was told that they're having they're having 2 more meetings this year, one in April and one in September, for review of an application. And we wouldn't make the April deadline, but we can make the September one. So I said, you know what, we don't need a sprint right now. And starting in April, we'll, it's on our plan to follow up with her in April to start the process of putting that application together. And we'll get it in plenty ahead of the September deadline.
Awesome. And she's waiting for me on the municipal planning grant.
That's what she had shared with me.
Thank you. Perfect.
Great.
Yeah, I don't want to put Kristen on the spot, but maybe a topic for a future agenda item would be CVRPC's mapping efforts as part of the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 structure under Act 250 that is in the works. So again, maybe at a future date, there is a legislation passed last year is going to make jurisdiction under Act 250 have a strong locational component to it, to where there would be certain areas that will be designated as tier 1A or 1B, depending on whether it's in the regional plan or it's a municipal decision. That you would have very little jurisdiction under Act 250, whereas tier 2 would be basically business as usual. Tier 3 would be in naturally sensitive areas where you would have increased jurisdiction. And there would be there's a new road rule trigger that length of roads and driveways would sometimes trigger Act 250. Hasn't been, there's a lot of rulemaking, a lot of mapping, and regional planning. Land use maps will now have kind of more accountability than they have historically. Do you have anything to add, Kristen? Again,
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in. I think you're absolutely right. This would be a great future meeting discussion, not just with this group, but certainly we'll be visiting each of your planning commissions. But I think it'd be a great platform to kind of give some initial, even test some early concepts. We're pulling the mapping together now. It's also tied to housing targets that municipalities will need to, that RPCs need to create, and then, or rather, housing targets that are given to the RPCs by region, but then need to be disaggregated by municipality. So there's really these 2 big pieces that have been worked into the regional planning process through Act 181 of the 2024 legislative session. As Brian quite well outlined, it does allow us to shift good amount of the decision-making process into local hands, not just around Act 250, but also around the designation process. So you all have designated villages or designated village centers or new development or neighborhood development areas. Those will also be guided by that regional future land use area map. So they're trying to move this point of articulation a little closer to the municipalities down from the state. So we expect to really starting end of April, be hitting the road pretty heavy with some early maps and some concepts that we just want to get feedback, try to figure out how to mesh those with municipal planning goals. So it'll be give and take. It's not top down by any means.
Thanks, sorry to hijack it, it didn't seem to be related to the designation progress. So.
Yeah, and I should say that the designation program is changing. I mean, I think that that's the connection here. One of the connections here is that with these changes, the designation program that the state has been running, which is everything from village center designations, downtown designations, new town centers, and neighborhood development areas. That program is shifting and changing, and so some of those benefits from being a part of that are being in a way usurped by this new structure. But there are, I did confirm with state staff that there are certain benefits that are part of the designation program, even though it will be shifting into something different, that it's worth getting in on. And so there's benefits that will carry forward that are not included.
The goal is to take the regulatory considerations out of it and put that into the regional planning process and the local planning process, and have the designation programs be more incentives, tax credits, and the downtown transportation projects and things like that. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Brian.
So moving on to old business, again, I don't think this will take too long, but we have made some progress, or I should say Dan has made some progress on personnel policies for the planning district.
Yeah, we were considering having a draft for this meeting, but Sam kind of cribbed off the Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission or Planning District? Commission. Sorry, Christian. Cribbed off your policies, your personnel policies. And then Sam reminded me that last year we had circulated, or reminded the executive committee, we had circulated a prior, perhaps different draft, although I totally had no memory of that. So I'll compare the two, and I imagine the other folks on the executive committee will compare the two, decide which version. I think the version I circulated probably reflects more recent updates that were made and is lengthier. So, in process, getting close, I would say, getting close.
The goal is to get them out in far enough in advance so folks can have take a look at them, spend some time, and have a informed discussion at one of the next meetings, probably the next meeting.
Yep.
Great. So new business, what do you have in store for us with the Irisville Village Master Plan, Joshua?
So I'm gonna ask Jonathan in a moment to provide a little bit more context, but if that works for you, Jonathan. But Waitsfield is in the process of this Irisville Village Master Planning project. Waitsfield received a municipal planning grant with some support from the planning district to undertake this effort to envision what Irisville could be.
And in partnership with the town of Facein.
Correct. Thank you for that reminder. Yes, it was a consortium grant application. Facein and Waitsfield together. Thank you, Brian. That should have been the first thing on my tongue. I apologize, Facein. But it was a multi-town effort to undertake Irisville Village Master Plan, and recognizing that Irisville is identified as this downtown as a concentrated area for activity in our broader Matter Valley. So the SE Group was retained as the consultant on the project and is in process to be delivered this summer. Fall?
Yeah.
I can't remember the timeline
I think
exactly.
the deadline is early fall, but I think it'll probably be more like late summer.
Somewhere in there. And so there's a steering committee that meets regularly that's working on this project. There was a community open house in November 18th. That sort of kicked off the public piece of that project. I think the three of us shared a little bit at the beginning of that meeting, and then there were boards around the room where folks had an opportunity to provide input. And so since that time, there's been some some work in identifying some scenarios and asking the public, which was last night at the Village Meeting House, asking the public to provide input. And I thought it would be a great opportunity to share that, essentially go through that exercise with you all. I think it's great to be able to highlight what's happening in our communities in a planning context, the leadership that Waitsfield in collaboration with Faison has taken in doing this project. And I think you all have important insight and perspective to share. And so there's 12 boards, 2 in here that start from left to right, that provide some like context. And then in the hallway are the area right out there going from in a clockwise direction from the left. There are boards that sort of go in that order, that ask questions, that have opportunities for dot voting, for post-it notes, and then we have all of those. So that's the broader sort of what I was hoping to get out of this evening is to engage folks in this. So anything you wanted to share?
I think that's a great just summary of everything. Yeah, but no, I think that's fantastic. Thank you. I did not prepare for tonight, so appreciate it. But yeah, so yeah, as you said, we had this second open house meeting for the community yesterday. Had great turnout, I thought, and it was, we had the space open for 3 hours for the public to come through, and we saw pretty consistent new people coming through the door all the way to the end. So I felt really good about the timing that we chose, and the format. I think the fact that we did it more as an open house, or it was self-directed and free-flowing, I think was really helpful at this stage in the project. I think the first meeting was great, but it was a little bit more like, it felt a little bit more like we were lecturing the public on what we were trying to do, which we needed. And we didn't have the sort of more tangible pieces at that point. Now we've got the slides that are out there that have really, I think, great renderings of what we're proposing as sort of the gold standard ideas of what we might end up with at the end of it, that I think is enough meat for people to look at and give their opinions, as opposed to sort of having to be a little bit more handheld through the idea of what we're trying to create. So yeah, I think it'd be great if we can all just walk out there and take a look and give our own feedback as well. This is a great group to get more input from.
Great, excellent. So yeah, feel free to, I mean, you don't have to start here and end there. You can actually, because of space constraints and such. But yeah, I'll put these dots and pens and such outside.
Can we ask for Christian's benefit, what time do you think we'll be reconvening?
Yeah, I had put 30 minutes total, but I think we're probably more like 15 or so, 15 to 20.
Perfect. I'll step away for a second. I'll be back.
I gave Christian a fair warning that this was gonna happen, so he knew what he was in for. So
Okay, thank you.
One thing to note, just to the extent that it's helpful, useful, and interesting, there's one last of these boards that's on the table, I believe, that has like written narrative responses from the community. Feel free to add to that, or just read it and see what you can make of it. So it's not all just pictures. There's also we did seek long form input too.
great.
I'm going. The old boy.
Yeah.
But there's a project. There's a like visual planning, but they also have a sector that. So they have offices in Berlin. So like. But they do a lot of things. They do. They have. They're pretty active. That's our country.
Yeah. You was gonna be when I was gonna miss it.
No, it was great. It was cold.
That's what I heard.
But that's old fashioned too.
Yeah.
And then it's cold for
Yeah. Did you get some scanning?
I did, I don't doubt it.
What's that?
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, you're of course, not sure.
Yeah, but I did. My, worst notion, my wife is still getting over some health issues, some balance issues, so anytime I went with her, she was like, oh, she was, I got quite a bit myself. Yeah. I had time.
Yeah.
Although,
I had time, but no inclination.
I actually got bogged down without having town administrator. On the budget for the town.
You'd be smarter than that.
I know, you think. How's things at chamber? You got your bathroom?
Yeah, it's been a little, like I said, it's just hard getting back into it.
Yeah.
And I kept working as much as I could. Through the treatment and everything, work alone, and it was kind of good, because I got to take kind of a step back and, look at things without dealing with the day-to-day stuff,
Yeah.
which was nice. But I had about a month where I was just incapacitated.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, did you spend most of it down in Boston?
yeah, I did 8 weeks of treatment in Boston, and so I rented an apartment down there.
How was that?
Because it was every day, like,
Yeah.
so it sucked. I hated it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like Boston.
I can't eat. I didn't eat. I didn't eat solid food. It was starting in late November. And I just started eating solid food about a week ago. I had a feeding tube.
Yeah.
So like, I can't eat, like, and it was, yeah, it was no fun at all. Like, and I was not in any, like, position to even be, like, having fun,
Yeah, that's right.
So.
How the business is going?
It's been a rough winter, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it's just challenging. Like, the scan was good, and it was late January, February, good. March has been not great.
Yeah.
And it's already fallen off the cliff.
Yeah.
And, we just really struggle with the businesses with staffing, and, like, in the winter, we don't have enough restaurants.
Yeah.
And then in the summer, and, in the.
So we're too many.
With too many. And
Actually, a buddy of mine stopped by my house who was sure it was, and he did say it was still pretty good.
Good. Right, yeah, the scan's great. So I just funny, I skied, I went skiing on Saturday and I went up to Burke.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to get out of town and go someplace where I didn't know anybody.
Yeah.
It was.
Put an offer on,
What's that?
put an offer in,
I can't hear you.
did you put an offer in?
Yeah,
You know who's buying that?
no, I don't. I saw that in the paper that,
It seems kind of sketchy. The more local group, they can't get their calls returned and.
Could be somebody, Michaela Schifrin's got a lot of big factors.
Yeah.
She's super intense. They can pick it up relatively inexpensively.
Yeah.
it's a weird place.
Damn, sounds weird.
It is.
The hotel.
Yeah, it's a big, beautiful building.
It's kind of out of place.
Well,
No one's in it.
well, actually, this guy who stopped by was Steve Sherwood. He always got to see, he lives in Marshall, and he's in Bass.
Yeah.
He loves it. He,
Yeah. It's not bad. It's okay though. It's a little boring, but
but it's low key scary.
Yeah. we just had the nicest time there. It's like, it was just such a mellow day of skiing, and, my wife hates spring skiing. And she did 4 runs, and once it started getting wishy, she was knitting on the deck by the hotel and having a great old time.
Yeah, I don't know who's buying it, but I would think that somebody that's had some investment in that school.
Yeah.
At the school. Yeah, I would, sort of figure. I tell you, that receiver's had that for a long time.
Well, that's, I don't know if you saw that, but they didn't put any capital into it that time. So some of the lists are starting to go.
Yeah, they took one of the lists, they decommissioned one of the lists. And it's just sitting there, like the lines off of it and the towers are still there and. It's really a one lift mountain, you know, it's. I don't know. Wouldn't want to ski there every day. And the food was terrible. I didn't taste anything, but I could, it was nuts.
Slim took us there once when it first, maybe the second year it opened. And took us, spend the night, and ski the next day, and I went to the restaurant. And he's like, "What are you ordering?" I'm like, "Nothing that's not fried." It's like, "I think I'm gonna have the salmon." No, and threw up all night.
Oh, really?
I mean, we got a tour of the whole building, so we saw the kitchen, you know, they weren't doing any, you know. Any meals there, so the food was just,
It is weird, it's like a really ghost town there.
I mean, the tuning equipment in the basement is amazing.
Yep.
At least it was at the time, they had all the school.
Is that because of the academy?
I remember going there as a kid, you know, it's funny. That shitty little lodge halfway, you know, quarter of the way up and.
Well, they do a lot of like U14, U13 races.
Yeah, but I think, you know, people from Boston, like, it's not that far, it's surprisingly not that far, because it's really close off the interstate and people like it, because it's got a good vibe, you know?
Yeah, there's some houses, right? There's that whole.
There's a lot of houses in the area, you know? But if you stayed there for a week, there wouldn't be a lot of dining options, like. And we can't really talk here too much, but.
There's not much else other than Burke, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's the Westburg Village, but
Yeah.
that's more of a summer village.
Summer and the trail.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few restaurants and shops and things, and it's kind of cute little place, you know, I like it, but. And that view of Willoughby is just incredible, you know, that backcountry skiing up there, have you ever been up there? Up on, you know, there's a whole trail network up there. That, you know, there's all these old CCC roads that are great cross country skiing, and then there's all these backcountry trails that go up from there. And it's really extensive and it's really well marked.
You know, I've only found, it's only about 5 years ago I discovered, I always thought, well, the Green Mountains is where the snow is.
Well, they got a shit ton
You
of
go up
it.
at the Groton Forest, they have, the cross-country skiing is incredible there, and it's like rocks here. It's amazing how much.
Yeah, you should go check out, up by Willoughby, those trails are incredible.
Yeah, I go out to Groton Forest all the
Mhm.
time. And it's really good. I never had realized that. It's like, Marshfield Village is like 1,700 feet or so.
Mhm. Yeah, there's some good stuff. Long's got some good shit. I have a great more appreciation for it now, as after a winter in Boston, I suppose it sucks.
You stay in a hotel?
What's that?
You're staying at a
I
hotel,
did an Airbnb down there and it was shitty.
the suburbs?
No, right in Beacon Hill.
Wow,
I was 2 blocks from the hospital, it was great, I mean,
it's a nice area,
it is,
if you can eat, coffee shops.
yeah, and I had none of it. My big hangout was I missed my cat. So there was a hardware store that had a cat, so I'd hang out in the hardware store. They got to know me. And I did get to go to all these restaurants with, like, when the kids came, I was taking them out to watch them eat, you know?
They still out west?
What's that?
Your kids still out west?
Yeah, they're in Washington and Bellingham.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing great. They were awesome. They came and visited a couple times and,
Yeah, I know, it's a great town.
yeah.
Your bar said again, right? Yeah.
Right.
That's so funny. Keeping you sweet. It's amazing.
Incredible, the small world.
Yes.
Well, I think I should build it.
Yeah. Thank you.
3 blocks, the whole thing.
Well, I mean, honestly, I think the best thing that came out of the feedback, as you saw with the dot maps, is just the overwhelming support for the fullest amount of development.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great to
it-
see.
Until it's done and then they won't like it.
sure.
Shush, shush.
But I think from a planning and sort of regulatory perspective, you know, one of the biggest hindrances to getting anything done in Irisville is the wetlands permitting. And not even so much, you know, that every parcel is impacted, but that we're having a very hard time. I know we've heard from landowners that the regulators don't want to deal with it piecemeal. They want to see a municipal plan. They want to see a coordinated effort. And because it is a fragmented ownership group, it's really hard to get there. So a big hope of this whole project is to push towards something that the state can look at and agree that the way that the town intends to handle development proposals in the area will result in, you know, an adequate preservation and enhancement of wetlands, and not, you know, have every single parcel be dealt with on an ad hoc basis and create the risk of, you know, potential lawsuits over, you know, disparate treatment and all. So from my perspective, the fact that there's so much support means that there's a reason to keep pushing to get to that level of, you know, a plan that actually gives us the ability to tell landowners, here, this is the plan. You know, if what you're proposing falls within this plan, like, we're gonna try and help you get that done, and we're gonna bring some of our resources to bear to push that forward and help through the state permitting process. So that's, I mean, the fact that the public that came is supportive of that level of development makes it that much easier for the town to put the weight behind it and not feel like we're fighting a battle about it, but we're actually trying to help the town get what the town wants. And so when there is some headwinds in front of us, we at least know that there's support popularly to get it done. So that's, to my mind, the best thing we got out of this whole project so far is just.
And one of the
people want
flaws of past master planning efforts has been kind of we can deal with the wetlands. We don't need to conserve them. We can mitigate or something. And that just hasn't been practical. It's not gonna, the state's not gonna allow that. So this does acknowledge that, you know, there are environmental resources that need to be maintained, and we want development. So,
Great.
anything else on Irisville? I think it was great. It's, you know, it's always been really important and remarkable that, all the valley towns recognize Irisville as being an asset and a resource for the entire valley. So it's great that we're able to, get input from all of the people who use the downtown. And it was really remarkable last night how many non-Waitsfield people came through the building. That was great. So I want to move on to bookkeeping.
Yeah, so from
Go
one,
from
from
really
one fun
excited
to another fun thing.
To really, really exciting.
Yeah, no, this is gonna be great.
The Plain District's fiscal year starts on March 1st and ends at the end of February. So we are now officially in fiscal year 26. So fiscal year 25 ended at the end of February, and we've transitioned our bookkeeping services to Northbound Consulting, which is run by Ed Reed, and it's really great. So staff have been working with Ed on QuickBook cleanups and updating procedures and sort of like looking at the way that we've been doing things, and he's adding not only sort of bookkeeping but also some perspective about larger organizational financial health. And so it's been a great conversation and work so far. Included for this meeting in the additional documents section was an end of year budget notes, P&L, process. What's the first word? Profit and loss statement. Thank you. Balance sheet and our fiscal year 26 approved budget. So at the end of 25, we ended 1% off of what we anticipated ending, based on the presentation I made in December, which was based on numbers of the end of November. Our liquid assets at the end of the year, officially on the 28th, was $7,855. We anticipated it being about $2,000. Actually, before there were some things that took a little bit to come in, and we actually ended with that $2,000 in our account. So we really ended where we anticipated at the end of the day, or almost there. So in the end of year budget notes that Ed had put together, he identified sort of three things. One, he believes that the planning district needs more breathing room, like ending within $2,000 at the end of the year isn't a good idea. And we knew that that was the case for this particular year, and is something that we will plan on budgeting differently going forward. But that cash crunch at the end of the year is not good for production or for confidence. He also suggested diversifying the income, AKA the amounts from the four funders. And there's no particular suggestions that he had, but that is an item that has been brought up before. When there, and one of the areas that we've talked about is when there are grants or other opportunities like that to identify, to ensure or find opportunities for income for the planning district for the time that we put into those. So that's something that's very much on the table. On the cost side, his read is that our organization is already very lean and doesn't see opportunities for reducing that. And the last is prepare for an audit within the next couple of years. Our organization is during my tenure has never had an audit, and I don't believe there has been one before. And given the fact that our bookkeeping's transitioned different systems and different individuals over the years, and that would be a good thing for our financial health to undertake. That would need to be budgeted for because audits aren't cheap. But to help us in that direction, the last page in that document or the packet is an internal controls policies. So the internal controls policy is based on the National Council on nonprofits. There's 6 basic internal controls, and they're identified in that document with ways in which the planning district can adhere to those things. And so, and I could talk about them or put them up on the screen if folks want, but anyway, that's what I wanted to sort of present, share, discuss. But you know, as we've transitioned from the way in which we've done bookkeeping and finances in the past to the way we're doing it now and going forward, I think this is a great step in the correct direction to stay on top of things, and great to have Northbound Consulting as a partner to make that happen. Yes, Dan.
So it has been a change where previously Bob Ackland did a lot of it. And it's in sort of a newish or more responsibility for you and Sam and you. How does it, if I may ask,
Yeah.
how's it feeling? How much time is it taking?
Well, to answer your question, it doesn't take too much time, but with Northbound Consulting, I think the idea is that Ed came by the other day and he basically was like, you shouldn't have to be doing this. So I think he's gonna take on most everything that I'd been doing. Like it really wasn't much time. It was just getting bills, putting them in QuickBooks, letting Hall and Holden know when we needed checks. They'd cut the checks, we'd go pick them up and then coordinate getting signed. So it's not a lot, but Ed essentially, I think, is taking on all of that.
Yeah. So it's a newer process, and you know, the things that have been budgeted and the things that come in every month, he was like, we can streamline this and make this much more efficient and less of your time, and essentially less of your responsibility to collect all of those things. So yeah, this is definitely moving in the right direction. I mean, we're only 20 days into the new fiscal year, so we're at the very beginning of this process. But I appreciate, you know, Ed was very much kicking the tires and being like, wait, so this is done how right now? And we're like, yeah, is that the right way? And he was like, no, that's not the right way. Here's a suggestion. And so a lot of that's baked into those policies. And I thought it was important to have some internal controls and have that identified and really clear as a process going forward. So yeah, I think it's definitely a step in the right direction.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other thoughts or questions? When I first got here, I was kind of really surprised that we were handling the books the way they were, putting the onus on the chair of the steering committee to be the bookkeeper and the payroll manager and whatnot. So this is really, I think, an excellent improvement to the process.
And,
And that's not, and whoever the chair was, that's just
Right.
Bob, it was just not a good system. When I worked for the planning district, it was all done through CVRPC, and it was very seamless and
Yeah.
no hassle, so it's good to get back to something like that.
yeah, and that's how it was when I started too. And so now I feel like we've got a good system and, Ed's costs have come in almost half of what we had budgeted for this service. So that's also a benefit. Very positive one.
In finances now, you've gotten payments from several of the towns and
Yeah, so we've received payments so far from two.
Waitsfield and Facein so far, so looking good.
So,
all right,
great.
so let's move on to the member roundtable. Christian, since you're on screen, want to stop with CVRPC updates?
There it is. Looking for the microphone. I don't know if there's anything major or time sensitive, but we're working our way through our regional plan update with the intent to have that, at least the drafting portion, wrapped by the end of this year. Big part of that, as we discussed earlier, is that future land use area map and the housing targets, where we really want to make sure we're collaborating with our municipalities to make sure whatever proposals are going into the plan are supported and that they're understood as well and what they mean, and implications, whether you're a municipality who has designations and want to make sure those benefits are rolled forward, or you're a municipality that's thinking about that tier 1B status under Act 250, which would allow up to 50 residential units to be developed without an Act 250 review, assuming they're accommodated by water, wastewater, or suitable soils. We just want to make sure we're coordinated on those plans, because this regional plan is going to just have more impact than our future land use maps have had in the past. So it's a bit of a new step, new territory. All 11 RPCs are working on it statewide, so we're trying to learn from each other as we go. But we'll be working closely with certainly all the towns of the valley and all the 3 towns here represented as well.
Sugar Bush.
We've had a pretty good year so far, up ahead of last year. President's Week went very well. Vermont Vacation Week went very well, and Vice President visit went okay. We didn't invite him, by the way.
That's not what I heard.
Yeah, that's what I've heard, but they approached us. So that went smoothly.
So, and it did go smoothly on the mountain, right? There were some protests, but
There was a handful, but again, they were moving him in and out of the building so quickly that it wasn't a big deal. Looking forward, we have Pride Weekend coming up this weekend, followed by Pond Skimming, which is the 5th, and then a Reggae Fest the following weekend, the 12th. So finishing strong if we can hold on to the snow. As Joshua mentioned, we've got our Act 250 on the surface lift that's going over at Mount Ellen, replacing Tommy's Toy. That's going to be over to the left, skiers left of that lower area. We're going to do some regrading, make it a really nice beginner area. Some future projects that we're asking for would be the replacement of the Northridge chair. It's probably about 2 years out, but and it's going to be a very expensive lift. I don't know if I mentioned last time, but lifts, the Valley House lift, when we put it in under 8 years ago, was $3 million. Heaven's Gate, which is basically the same lift, is the same lift, same drivetrain. It was around $9 million. So things have really gotten out of control. We're looking at Northridge as
possibly being upwards of over 13 million. So, if everyone's upset or thinking about we're not maintaining our list or not taking care of them, we are, we're doing the best we can and we're trying to replace them, but it's very expensive infrastructure. Going forward, we're looking at, possible pond expansion for future development or for future, hedging our bets against the weather. That's about it. We're constantly looking for new housing opportunities. It doesn't look like we will be building anything new, but we have purchased a home that was a ski house in Warren, the Retriever Lane House, which actually worked out great. It's got septic for 30. We put 24 people in it. It's got a sprinkler system, alarm system. You know, it was a ski house originally, or ski lodge, so that type of property really worked out for us, other than its location and transportation, which is always a challenge, but we are looking at other properties currently and hopefully building those assets up a little bit. Anyone have any questions? Sure.
So like on the Rosita's parcel, that's sort of on hold.
That's on hold now. We basically went through engineering the culvert. So if the town wants to replace that, we've got plans for that, and you know, we'll work with you when that happens. But you know, they built a pretty large building out at Winter Park, and it was twice as expensive as they thought it would be. So they're just relooking at how they're spending. You know, I believe they spent around $10 million down in Manchester buying those no-tell motels along 7 there for employee housing. You know, which is, I think they bought 3 of them. So they're, you know, they're spending the money on it. It's just, you know, the cost per square foot to buy versus build is a little bit better right now.
Got it. It's too bad, but I get it.
Yep.
Is there other questions? Jonathan? Other than Irisville?
Nothing really to report beyond that. Yeah, it's really our big focus right now. So there'll be more to come though.
Chuck?
Couple of things, well, 3 actually. We're looking for people again. So assistant town clerk position is open. So if anybody knows of anyone who may be interested in a part-time position, that one we're looking for. Also looking for a summer road crew member that could possibly turn into a full-time position if it's the right person. So we're looking for starting out at part-time probably by May or so. And then finally, we're going to be issuing an RFP to try to finish up the work from the flood last year. We know that we can't do the road work that needs to be done this summer outside what happened with the flood. So we're going to look for subcontractors to come in and do the flood recovery work for us, or complete the work for us. And we had a lot of those left to do. The weather got to us by fall, and we couldn't complete like stone lining all of the roads and those kinds of things. So that stuff needs to be done. So if we can offload that to subcontractors and we work on our regular summer schedule, that would be the ideal situation for us. So, and we don't get paid from FEMA until the project's 100%
I was
complete.
gonna ask you, how's your experience with FEMA been?
You know, we're still meeting with them weekly.
I'm meeting with them every other week.
Oh, is that right?
Which is, we have a lot less to talk about. Than the other week.
Yeah, so I mean, they're working with us, they're helpful. There's nothing we could do about, you know, the fact we could not complete the projects prior to winter time. The only 2 that were completed were the 2 temporary bridges that blew out. And so we're going after FEMA for that money now. But the rest of the road work that needed to be done, we just never could get to. So that's the plan. Hopefully we'll get those completed and get our requests and, you know, completed to FEMA and get our money back. So, which is looking at about $800,000 now. So it's a pretty big dent in our budget.
That doesn't include the bridges.
Pardon me?
That doesn't include replacing
No,
the bridge, yeah.
No, and then to replace the bridges permanently will be we get two estimates, 1.3 million and 1.6 million for the two bridges to replace. So,
Total? What, it's not 1.1 each or total?
yeah, one is 1.3 million,
Okay,
the
one
other
is
is 1.6
okay.
million. Yeah,
Chuck,
Yeah.
how do you, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead.
So I was just gonna ask, how does the town, you mentioned that there's a lag before FEMA money comes in, you have to complete the project. How do you, quote, bridge do you have enough resources on, maybe I should know this, but I don't, how do you, does the state fill in, or does it just have to come from the town fisc, or how's it work?
No, so essentially, we're gonna borrow money. The state has some funds that are low interest rate loans that we can apply for.
I said,
We budgeted for, I forget what the dollar amount was, but, to pay interest on those loans during the course of this year, so we were able to budget for that. We're hoping that by the end of the year, we get the money from FEMA that we can pay everything back, and there'll be short-term loans from the banks. But that's how we plan on doing it, so we'll have to float some money. And right now, we're looking at, well, our treasurer just did an analysis in May, June, July, because tax money won't start to roll in until August, September, October, are gonna be cash flow potential issues for us, around that time frame. So we'll be talking to the state bankers and the other banks if necessary to get some money, cover that.
Is the state, how does it feel from the state? Are they supportive or?
Yeah, well, right now, it's just they're acting as a bank for us, so, they're not involved in any other way.
Got it.
The FEMA folks come in and deal with our folks on a weekly basis but they've been helpful too, so, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Well, that's it.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that FEMA still has some resources.
Well,
We've got like 2 of the 32 people still working there.
yeah, and the money, and the money.
Wait until tomorrow.
The last planning commission meeting was the 10th of March and spent what I considered a inordinate amount of time discussing campers and temporary shelters and hooking them up to power and how to dispose of the waste and tweaking. So we're still tweaking some parts of our land use regulations and wasting too much time, I think, not seeing the forest for the trees, and the forest being that we have to do an updated town plan, and those take years. And so to that end, we had Nick Sabata from Sabata planner from CRVPD came in and start explaining to us what resources they can bring to the table and get us started on a community or town survey. Get the ball rolling with that. Sam's gonna be helping us out, and yeah, we have to begin pushing that rock up the hill.
When does Faison's town plan expire?
2028
Okay.
is the next one.
Yeah.
So yeah, and this is all just new to me, so I'll be able to, my ski season ends mercifully, my coaching season ends this weekend. 2 days at Smugs, and then I should have some renewed energy and focus for my other part of my retirement act, so.
Eric, welcome back.
Yeah, well, it's good to be back.
welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. And it's been a little challenging getting back into it. I had a lot of opportunity when I was away to kind of look at things, the organization from a 30,000 foot perspective, as opposed to, which was really nice to be able to do that. And kind of looking at things more strategically, and so that's really how I tried to use that time. Now I'm trying to catch up with everything. I'm really kind of laser focused on the summer. This is going to be our first summer with the recreation hub. Really actually open the whole time and kind of putting all those final pieces together. We're really excited about the opportunity for that. We really noticed in the fall how it was being used already, and we're seeing people down there, and the parking lot's being used, and people are using the bridge, and the signage is terrible, and people are finding it. So we're feeling really good about that. John got his permit to do a beer garden in the back there, so that's going to be happening. And I think that the restaurant, he really wants to get everything together, so that anyone looking to lease the restaurant can see how the full project is going to work, because you really notice that the people just don't have the vision for it. So that's really exciting. Glad to report that the student MRV program is going really well. I'm really excited about that. Tom Spencer is coming back again. I'd like to thank all of the towns for their continued support of that program. We are adding a new site, the rec hub is going to be a new site, and we already have a new volunteer that's going to be stewarding that, which is awesome. And I think that's going to be a big responsibility, and we got someone that's really excited about it. And our 30 some odd volunteers, we've reached out to them, and we're expecting 95% plus coming back, which is a real testament to Tom's efforts. We're going to be working with Wasted again on the portalets. And again, as a chamber thing, again, I just can't help to reiterate that it's just not one of those typical things that chambers of commerce do. And I'm really, really proud of what we've been able to do with that. And I think we've made a huge impact, and our businesses appreciate it, and the community appreciates it. And that's a great thing. The one thing I would like to ask of the towns is that you be aware of what we're up to. Tom's been reaching out to, the conservation commissions, and there's not a lot of great communication. I think that people don't necessarily from the towns understand what we're doing, and the load that it's taken off for Waitsfield, for example, like your road crew not having to deal with that crap is huge.
The select board knows how much it is and appreciates it. very
Okay,
much.
it's, yeah, but it's, and we're really excited about just like, we just can't get a hold of anyone warned about, doing the, we're doing the Green Valley Rally, which is where we have the, Green Up Day. And we have all the towns involved in it, and Warren's like MIA. And it would be really great to get them in there. We want to have like another site down at the, at the travel eye. To have garbage picked up there, it has a drop off point, and kind of incorporate Warren into that. And that travel eye is just like, it's, for me, it's the epitome of like how successful that program's been.
Well, let's talk after, why don't we talk tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'll do whatever I.
Yeah, I just want to find out what
what
the coordinators are, and just
Yeah.
like, it's just
Yeah.
cricket sometimes, and we're,
Yeah.
trying to reach out, but we want the conservation commissions in the towns, to get into the planning process, so we get into the fall after the field season, saying like, hey, we'd like these things to happen, instead of it coming from us. Because our volunteers are like, hey, we should do X, Y, Z, and, we try to make it happen. But it would be really nice to hear from the towns what the priorities are, and so that we're working more collaboratively, because they're so appreciative of the funding for it. And just so you know, the organization is continuing to put in a significant amount of money into the program, and it's great. So
And how many sites now? Is it like 25 or
20,
so?
we have 32 volunteers covering, will now be 26 sites going into this year, up from 25.
That's awesome.
And yeah, it's remarkable, and we have a waiting list of volunteers.
Wow.
Which is pretty unusual. Where we're struggling is staffing the Welcome Center. I'm really trying to, get that better staffed. It's been disappointing, the usage in the winter, which is not getting a lot of visitors, and it's hard for me because I just really wasn't around. So I think this was a tough winter, but even when I've been around, skiers know where they're going. They don't need to, they don't, need to stop. We get a lot more locals in the winter, but, which is great. But good stuff happening.
You referenced the restaurant and I out of the loop. Is it the old local folks?
Yeah.
That's getting going again,
Hopefully. Yeah.
hopefully. Okay,
Yeah, John wants to lease it out. He doesn't want to do it himself.
okay, so
He wants to be a landlord and collect checks.
Is everything still in, I mean, is it still like, is it
Oh, it's,
all the,
oh yeah, it's actually, he's done a ton of work to it. It's all new. He's redone the whole kitchen, redone the electrical work, insulation. He's putting in new windows. I mean, he's upgrading everything. There's a new roof on it.
pool tables?
What's that?
Pool tables still there?
Pool table, one.
Yeah.
One or two. There used to be two. I think there's one there now. There's a crocodile on it right now. But he's getting that's the last part, the pool room, getting that cleaned up.
Valley needs pool tables.
So I hear,
In a lot of music venues.
yes,
Well, the.
afterthoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully
He's doing great.
that'll take off.
Yeah, they're doing very, very well down there.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's great to see. Yeah, and businesses, like, it's challenging. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. It's like, it's spotty and there's housing issues and obviously, and there's, employment issues and things like that, which we all know. The wedding season this summer is looking really soft, which is really problematic. So,
What do you attribute that to?
what the experts say is that there was a lag during the pandemic when people weren't dating. So if you believe that,
The pipeline. yes.
Exactly.
The wedding pipeline.
yeah. And there's also a trend towards smaller weddings, which as someone with kids in marriage age, I'm all for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Got it? Yeah,
Well, let's see what's going on in Warren. I don't see anyone from the select board here, as Josh alluded to, that we only have three members of our typically 5-member select board, so I take that as kind of a bad sign or a challenge that people are not willing to, are not interested in volunteering as much. On this planning specific, I mean, and obviously the big thing is trying to get a bond passed for the town garage. And it's very expensive, to build a town garage, and that's probably created a lot of controversy at town meeting day as people try to understand if there are any alternatives and why is it so expensive, and you know, I'm sure it's very frustrating for the select board members who have spent so much time and effort, and then to sort of have their doubt. I mean, I guess it's natural. A big bill, people see a big number and get very anxious. But that's, that would, from the planning perspective, although that's really a select board project, from a planning commission perspective, that would just be an incredible win. If we can get that town garage out of the center and then hopefully get some housing there, that would just be like, wow, a generational, multi-generational vision for Warren Village would really move forward. So
What's the location of the new garage?
what is that road called?
Von Brown.
Von Brown Road.
It's
It's across Route 100.
across from 100 from the entrance,
Yeah.
from the northern entrance, just a little bit further to the right.
And there's been, I mean, with regard to that, I mean, the original vision was to kind of regrade the road and straighten the road, but that had another $3 million price tag associated with it. And so I think that's a process of trying to sort of go from an optimal vision to like what's enough. What's enough. So that's the big challenge. Joshua has kindly offered to meet with our select board members on a strategy, kind of because the bond vote is so significant and because we have the example in Waitsfield of a very controversial, well, of what in the past was controversial and, was difficult to get passed, but you guys did an incredible job getting it passed this go around. See what learning we can do from Joshua. Planning Commission side, our land use and development regs are finally coming up for a vote this next month after a excruciating process. Involving two consultants and our select board voting not to implement our land use and development regs and. That'll be good to get that done, and then we get to start on our town plan. That's life at the planning commission. Short-term, the last thing I should mention is short-term rental ordinance is still under, which we had a draft of, but was then changed and sent to the Vermont Leagues of City and Town for legal review. Is just taking a very long time to get reviewed. And that's in the select board hands. And I think that really slows down the implementation of working with a company like Granicus. Because without an ordinance, where's the stick essentially to force people to register? So the town is already working with Granicus to get them data, like the grand list and things like that. That's a great step that we hired Granicus, but that we don't have an ordinance, a final ordinance to share with them seems to me to be, I don't know, just like we tripped over some ice we didn't need to trip on.
Somebody from Waitsfield may be reaching out to you, Dan, to talk about your experience with the short-term rentals. There's a lot of concern about a single-family home on a community septic system that has been booked for a large 3-day party,
Okay.
and the neighborhood's not really excited about it.
Well, that's good input, that's kind of the thing you want, if you want to get a ordinance passed, is get people upset about it.
It works for everyone. So we had staff report, I guess, for 9 steering committee meetings in a row, I think I said we're still working on trying to get a town administrator. And we have a town administrator. York Haverkamp is moving his family to central Vermont somewhere from Tennessee. He started just before town meeting. Many of you might have met him. We also have a 4th road crew member, so we are fully staffed for the first time in a long time. I'm really happy about that. So, and we also have a number of, we are moving towards a town garage. Likely we'll be doing an RFP to do a conceptual plan soon. We expect to bring that to the voters in a couple of years. We're watching very closely the Meadow Road Bridge. Folks remember after the flood, all traffic north out of the valley was detoured over the Meadow Road. That bridge really should not have been taking that kind of abuse. The inspection from 2 years earlier said, yeah, there's some wear and tear, there's some problems, but it can function at its current weight limit. After the flood, it was inspected and they said, you got to lower the weight limit on this thing and try to keep trucks off of it, which is impossible. So a couple of other headaches coming our way, but so anyhow, and this one final thing, the Waitsfield Select Board has not made its annual appointments yet. It's there is a likelihood that we will that I'll be serving as the alternate to the steering committee in the hopes that we have somebody else who will step into this position. So I'm gonna let you know if a new face shows up in April, it's because we've made a different appointment. But I do look forward to staying involved in some level as an alternate.
And the Plain District's organizational meeting, so the organizational meeting is always in April. So when we meet next in April, that's when we go through the chair, vice chair, secretary, treasurer appointments, and the terms for each member, their annual terms that start on April 1st. So there can be times where you have like Andrew Cunningham is no longer on the select board, but is officially still the representative from the select board to this group for this particular month. But yeah, it's anticipated that most appointments will happen in the month of March, or at the very least in advance of our 3rd Thursday in April.
Could I piggyback on that, Brian? First of all, I think it's it's been great having you as chair. I'm sorry, sorry to hear that, because I think you've done a great job. I would also say that I've told my fellow planning commission members that this is my last year on the Warren PC after 18 years, give or take, so I will. I'll be stepping down next March. My final meeting should probably be April. So I guess I'd encourage people to think about who would like to step up to the chair and vice chair roles. I certainly don't think it makes sense for me to, take on more responsibility, given that this is sort of my last year here, at least for a while. May come back like Chuck has done, but ready for a break.
Lame duck, huh?
I'm a lame duck. Well, I hope not. We have a lot to do, and I think there's a lot we still need to push forward on that I feel like. Gotta keep pushing for a year and not be a lame duck till February.
Anything else? Nope. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second that.
all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thanks, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.